What's up, guys? Thank you for joining us at our first episode of KillerCast, the pilot episode. This is going to be a very generalized podcast. We're just kind of ramble off our hot takes towards horror movies, subgenres, and so on and so forth, just so you can get to know us a little bit better. I'm your host, Kody, and I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Dakota
and
Chase.
And let's just go ahead and jump right into it.
Let's do this, baby.
I got some pretty bad opinions I'm willing to share.
I'm ready to do this. Let's do this. KillerCast episode 1. Let's go.
So we got a lot to get into tonight. What did you guys want to begin with?
Well, I think we need to start with our introduction to horror. I feel like that'll give us a good background on who we are and what we like and what got us into the genre itself. So go ahead, Dakota. I'll let you start first.
Letting me start. The golden child of the podcast is going for it right now. So I guess, how old would I have been in 4th grade? Probably 8 years old.
Yeah, about 8.
It was 3rd or 4th grade, one of the two. Now, I remember specifically it was open response day. So you had to go in and, write those, hour-long papers or whatever. And I faked being sick. So I was like, I'm going home. Like, screw this. Like, this is stupid.
Right.
So I go home, and I'm with my dad. You all know my dad, how full of crap he is.
Yeah.
So I should have been doing my homework, but he's like, you know what, sit down, let's watch some TV. So we turn it, and we're clicking through the channels on AMC. And I see this movie on. And I'm like, what is this, Dad? And I see these snowy mountains and these hills. And he's like, son, this is The Shining. Sit back, let's watch this.
Your first horror movie was The Shining, for real.
I didn't know
Swear to
that.
God.
I didn't know that either.
That's why I have such a emotional connection with that movie. You remember how excited I was for Dr. Sleep?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. Back when I was little, I would always watch YouTube videos of people talking about horror movies, little. And I would have hated if my first Shining horror movie was The Shining, because I wasn't old enough to understand what was going on. I would watch it with Dad and be like, this movie sucks. Why do people like this movie?
There's a lot to talk about with The Shining.
But
let's not get into that today.
Let me just correct this, though. I don't hate The Shining. It's actually a very good movie. I'm saying, when I was young, I didn't understand
Stephen King
it.
fucking hated it. Stephen King hated it, and I can understand why. It's so different from the actual book. But anyway, continue with your story.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't really, understand what was happening, but, even at, a young age, you can kind of, watch and, feel, Jack descending into madness, and, feel like the hotel is my favorite character of the movie, and I know that's weird to say.
No.
And if you're not, if you haven't seen it multiple times, you might not understand, but, the entity of the Overlook Hotel is, I think, genuinely one of the greatest, not settings, but characters in horror movie history. Mm-hmm. And it really just kind of draws you in.
It's just like the Elm Street house.
Shout out James. There's so many different places like that.
Yeah, Kubrick did a really good job with making the set of the Overlook feel alive in a way and make it feel like it's I don't necessarily know the word that I'm trying to use, but
it has a personality of its own.
Yeah, and kind of deceiving in a way. There's a lot of stuff in that movie that you're just like, what the fuck? If you actually watch it multiple times.
Yeah, because you see it and you're like, hey, this is just a normal looking hotel, razzle dazzle, I'm in the hills of Gatlinburg or whatever. And then you really get into it and you're like, wow, this place is really screwed up.
Yeah.
Some bad shit has gone down here.
So
and it really just envelops you.
That final shot of Jack, in the Overlook Hotel, right? That's what it's called, Overlook Hotel.
Do you mean him frozen or him in the picture?
No, him in the picture.
That screwed me up. So I remember that specifically watching it as a kid, because at that time you didn't really it doesn't really click.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, I'm like, why is it zooming on this picture? Why do I care? And I was like, oh my god, that's that guy that's out there in the snow.
Yeah.
No, what I was saying was that shot from that, and this is gonna sound so cringy, but it reminds me of when you beat Call of Duty Black Ops 1, Mason standing next to JFK with the gun at the end of the game, because it's a frozen in time shot.
I've never played that game, so I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's it's almost surreal to just see it.
Yeah.
But I quickly followed up. After that, I was kind of all right, I want some more of this. And it was in October, so because Fright Fest was going on with AMC, so I was like, okay, let's experiment a little.
Yeah.
And that's when they were oh, let's play the shit out of Halloween Resurrection.
Oh.
And I don't want to get started on this, but Chase and I both love this movie, and everybody shits on it, but whatever. Regardless. that's how it started officially with The Shining.
Yeah.
It's a terrible movie.
That cold October day.
Halloween Resurrection is genuinely a terrible movie, but it is.
At the same time, I freaking love it.
It's one of those movies that's so bad it's so good.
It's early 2000s trash.
Well, I can tell you this. We're recording this, what is this, the end of November. During Fright Fest this year, they played the crap out of it on AMC. I watched it literally like 9 times, because trick or treat, motherfucker. That's generally, I think that's one of the best lines in horror movie history. Yeah. Busta Rhymes went toe-to-toe with fucking Michael Myers and whipped his ass when Laurie Strode couldn't, Dr. Loomis couldn't. But we're going to have a whole episode about Halloween Resurrection, because I could talk for hours. But let's move on. Chase, hit us with some factoids about your life.
My first time ever being introduced into anything horror, I'm sure Kody will remember this because Cody's my older brother, but I used to always be babysitted by a woman off the street named Carolyn, and she absolutely loved Van Helsing. She did.
I remember this. This shit was on repeat for
absolutely
8 hours a day.
She thought Hugh Jackman was sexy.
I kid you not, I got Van Helsing on DVD for Easter in 2005.
And I tell you what, Van Helsing's a terrible movie, but I love it.
It ain't that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty terrible. Well, see, the thing is with early 2000s movies is, especially horror, is they have this overtone, like everything had to be like badass action.
Yeah.
So like you have that in Van Helsing, which to be fair, Van Helsing was very stylized. And it was a very good movie in my mind at the time. If you watch it now, it probably aged.
It does not age well.
Yeah, it ages like a dog turd in the sun. It just doesn't age well. Halloween Resurrection, at the time,
I think it aged better than it was at the time.
You really think so?
I think looking back at Halloween Resurrection,
I agree.
If you watched it in the theaters at that time, and that was a time where if you were watching it, you would have seen all the Halloween movies. Like you were coming right off of H2O, which I know Kody doesn't like, but was a good sequel to Halloween 2.
It is a good sequel.
And, like, you had that stalky, campy Michael Myers, and you had Laurie, and then you come into Halloween Resurrection, and you're like, what? You killed Jamie Lee Curtis in the first fucking, 45 seconds?
Not to mention how dumb Michael Myers' mask and everything about him looks.
Yeah, he looks so stupid.
He doesn't look intimidating. He looks like a normal dude just wearing a mask, which I guess in a way that is terrifying.
Well, that's the point, though.
But I'm not going to lie. I hate to get off topic and us just start talking about Halloween already, but Rob Zombie's Mike Myers is truly the most terrifying.
Tyler Mane is the scariest son of a bitch I've ever. He's massive.
He's such. I love that term.
He played Sabretooth with no CGI, no height added. He's a big son of a bitch. Anyways, back to Halloween Resurrection. It's like you see all this stuff, and it's like Michael just stood down to Busta Rhymes the first time. He was like, "Get out of here, Mikey! This is my set. I'm scaring these kids." And it's like, oh, because Michael would really do that. But looking back at it now, it's such a good break from Halloween. It's it's almost like I would consider it a horror comedy to a sense.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
And there's good kills in it.
And
the tripod kills.
I want to say,
chop her head off.
Yeah, it takes away from Michael's normal kill set. Honestly.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's how I feel about that. You say horror comedy.
Maybe not a horror comedy, like a very dark comedy, kind of like Texas
I know what
Chainsaw.
you mean. I think what it was a horror movie that tried to profit off of a name and off of tropes that were very popular at the time. And now that we watch it, when did that come out?
2002, I believe.
2002.
Yeah, 90s and early 2000s have the same feel. You go back and you watch that 20 years later, literally almost 20 years later, and you look at it and you're like, what is this garbage? And that's why you think it's comedy, because it looks like shit, it plays like shit.
I'm going to be honest with you, though, the only issue I really had, the biggest issue I had with Halloween Resurrection is you can truly put any, horror movie villain in that
role.
Yeah,
it would work.
It could have just been a random dude.
Yeah, essentially anybody but Freddy would have worked.
Yeah.
Anybody that's you could have put the fucking Leprechaun in there, and it'd have been
Leprechaun would have made it.
Well, they kind of did do that in Leprechaun Origins.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the one with the?
It's Hornswoggle playing
the
goofy goblin.
Yeah,
that's worse than Leprechauns in Space, because at least Leprechauns in Space and the
Leprechaun in Space is the funniest fucking movie.
Leprechaun in the Hood is the best with Ice-T.
By far.
Anyways, but back to what you were saying about how it was kind of campy and weird, and it was too meta, which Scream did it well, and there were movies that I Know What You Did Last Summer was fine, there were movies that were okay with it, but Halloween Resurrection tried to take it to the point of where it was it was too much, but I love it at the same time. Like the whole like pointless character of him watching on the video
That's
camera.
what I was about to say.
I know he saved her life, but like, was that really necessary? Them being
What
at a
was his
Halloween
name?
party,
Daxter?
something like that.
Dexter?
I
I
know.
can probably tell you real quick.
Let's hop back over. Let's
To
not
Van
get
Helsing.
too far off track. Let's get back to Chase's first
So
experience.
yeah, I was
and,
watching Van Helsing. I was watching Van Helsing, just chilling with my babysitter. I probably had the whole movie ingrained in my head by age 5 because that's all we watched. It was that and Freddy vs. Jason, which we'll get to in a later episode.
Great movie.
Love Freddy vs. Jason.
Those, like-
Everyone here can cop me for that.
Those like Dragon Ball Z slams, like flying up against the trees and shit. Looks
Right.
like a horror anime.
No, you remember when that one girl falls asleep and Freddy's like, "Got your nose."
Got your nose, bitch, and he just rips it off.
He's like,
Yeah, I'd say Van Helsing and Freddy vs. Jason.
Forgot about that. That's funny.
I'd say Van Helsing and Freddy vs. Jason is my two like entries to horror, and I immediately fell in love with Freddy.
And
Okay.
I remember that vividly growing up, sitting there. You're like, I want to watch Van Helsing, and I'm like, God damn it! It was the most annoying thing to sit there and watch Van Helsing on loop constantly because it would go off and you'd watch it again. That was your backyardigans growing up, and that shit killed me.
Exactly. When I was growing up, there was 3 movies always on TV for me, and I always got what I wanted: Van Helsing, Freddy vs. Jason, or Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. That's a horror movie right there. Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. That movie's scary.
Yeah.
his name was Miles. Fun fact: did you know he's the guy from the Dick boyfriend from Final Destination 3?
What are you talking about?
The guy from Resurrection. I was researching over here while you guys were
Now
talking.
that I think about that, yeah.
Honestly, like, you know what? I'll save this for a Halloween Resurrection episode. But I'm really excited looking at this cast. Like, I didn't know Katie Sackhoff was in it.
Why are you excited about looking
Katie,
at
what? Oh,
Katie Sackhoff.
Oh.
Fucking Bo-Katan from
I thought you said
Mandalorian.
something else.
Katie Yakoff? My first introduction to horror, a lot of it's kind of fuzzy, because horror has been a big part of my life since I was really young. The same babysitter that watched my brother obviously watched me, and I remember vividly her having a very extensive horror VHS collection. And I think the ones that I watched on loop growing up was Tremors. Have you ever seen
I remember
Tremors,
you always
Dakota?
telling
I've actually
Nice.
never seen Tremors.
You've
in
never
my
seen Tremors?
entire life.
Kevin Bacon's
And
great.
I've got a
Yeah.
decent reason for why I haven't seen Tremors.
Go ahead.
I remember there was a time where I got really into like creature flicks. So like
Yeah.
Snakes on a Plane is like genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time. And I was watching all this stuff. Like, it was the first time I had seen Jaws and Anaconda. And then my uncle was like, "Hey, you should watch Tremors." And I'm like, "Who's in it?" And he's like, "Oh, the guy from Footloose." And I was like,
Who?
"Kevin Bacon."
No,
From
I know
Footloose.
that. I thought that's what you were like because you didn't know who that
No,
was.
no. See, I love Footloose.
Oh.
Like, that's a guilty
What?
pleasure of mine. And I was like, "Ooh, I should watch this." And I remember I went to Tidal Wave, and I was like, "Where's the Tremors?" And they were like, "I think you're a little too young for that, son." And I was like, "My mom's with me; she can rent it." And they didn't have it.
I'm gonna be honest.
Haven't seen it since
I'm gonna be
then.
honest. The first Tremors is genuinely a good movie, like from top to
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
But the sequels were not.
Well, the second one is good from what I remember. It's been a few years, and the third one is good too. The concept of reviving the Tremors into to make them different
Like the flying one and the
per
screaming
movie,
one or
yeah,
whatever
because
it
you got
was.
the ones that are bipedal,
Yeah.
and then you have the ones that can fly, the ass blasters, I think is what
Oh,
they're
yeah,
called.
that's what they're called.
That's interesting because it's not the same thing over and over. They get to revive it. Now the later sequels, like the current one, where that takes place on an island.
Don't they kill the main guy of the
Yeah,
whole like,
Bert
franchise?
dies. Yeah, the spoiler alert:
Napoleon-
Bert dies.
Napoleon Dynamite's taking over the franchise, baby.
Yeah.
What was
Prior to that, I think they did it in the Arctic. Those are interesting because it's a setting change. But after, I would say you should never take, for the most part, a franchise past a trilogy. And
I agree.
the reason why I say that is because you look at a lot of the early horror that everybody knows. You look at Friday the 13th, you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, you look at Halloween. We were literally just talking about it. I think there's with Halloween Kills coming out soon, That's going to be how many is that? That's 12.
That'll be 12. Yeah.
That's 12 in the series. 12 fucking movies.
Halloween Ends is confirmed. So 13.
I think the biggest offender of that rule that you were just talking about was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, Texas Chainsaw, it's interesting what they did because he did something different every time. To be honest, I don't feel like those, even if they are like connected continuity wise.
Like in canon, like they are so like the like change from Texas Chainsaw, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is like comparing a preacher to a crackhead. Like, it is insane.
I mean, that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
I think the people who wrote Texas Chainsaw 2 were literally on dope.
Hooper was like, I did this, and he was like, let's change it up.
What was his name? Chop Top?
Chop Top, Bill Moseley.
It was an amazing, acted
Yeah, it's so
role.
funny. It's
he played it exactly how it should have been
Bill
played.
Moseley's a fucking horror icon, though.
Yeah, Bill Moseley, he gets credit, but he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
I agree.
For that and, what the hell's his name in, Firefly trilogy.
or whatever his name is. Otis. No.
Otis, yeah.
Is it Otis?
Well, is his name Otis?
Yeah.
Moses?
Those movies stress me out. I don't want to talk about
Here's the thing. The weird thing about horror is a lot of the people...
They killed Rainn Wilson.
And Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, him too. A lot of the people in horror, a lot of the actors, that might be their one and only gig.
Yeah.
Or if it's not, they might be in lesser-known pictures. So seeing prominent faces in horror, for the most part, is kind of rare. And you see, Sid Haig, rest in peace, super nice guy. You see
Bill Moseley.
Bill Moseley, he's one.
Jamie
Lee Curtis.
Robert Englund, technically, because he was in every single
Well,
Nightmare.
He's a little different.
But
Kane
he's
Hodder,
playing a role.
Hold on, let's correct ourselves there so we don't get called out. He's not in the 2010 remake. That's Jackie Earle Haley.
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna say it. Jackie Earle Haley played a good Freddy.
Oh hell yeah! We'll have a whole. We're going to talk about that.
We're going to make everybody
I have very
so
strong
mad.
opinions about that movie.
Me too.
I do too.
But I could talk for hours.
I have very strong opinions about the remake for Friday and Nightmare.
I do too. I agree.
Hint, hint. I feel like we're going to talk about Friday soon. 09.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Wink, wink. But we'll see what happens.
What are you getting at? I'm kidding.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, Richie?
I haven't seen the upload schedule. We're getting too meta. This is Scream now.
I guess what I'm trying to say is...
I feel like such a pretentious douche. Douche, whatever. If you... I don't mean to get off topic, but people that say Scream is meta are, kind of douchebags, and I'm one of those. When you sound like you know what you're talking about, you're like, well, this movie is very meta in the genre.
I feel like that's the point of Scream.
That's the point of it, but if it's this late in the game and you feel like you have the need to tell someone that it's meta, you're a douche.
Right.
That's Wes Craven, right?
Yeah.
So... We've talked about what our introductions was rather.
What
Dakota's, Dakota's was Shining. My brother's was Van Helsing, which is arguably a horror movie, but at the same time not. And
I would almost say Van Helsing / Freddy vs. Jason for him.
Yeah.
Freddy vs. Jason, so much so. And you know what's interesting about that? I don't think I've ever told you this, Chase. You got introduced to even though I liked her horror as early as I did in life and was interested in it as much as I was, you actually got introduced to the Friday and Nightmare series long before I did.
Yeah, Dad watched Freddy Krueger with me when I was little.
Yeah. I was talking to Kody about this earlier. I think the reason I love it so much, because Dream Warriors is my favorite. That was the first one I saw. Because my mom's always loved Nightmare on Elm Street. That's her go-to, horror movie. So I remember when I watched Dream Warriors, I loved it, and, it was amazing. But at the same time, as, a, 8 or 9 year old kid, I was laying in bed, and I convinced myself, I was like, am I awake or am I asleep? It had me all screwed up for
I'm going to be
a week.
honest with you. I'm going to be dead serious with you. I grew up loving Freddy Krueger. I thought, Nightmare on Elm Street was, genuinely my favorite horror franchise. But as I grew up and I was, rewatching them, I was like, wow, outside of the first Nightmare on Elm Street, this ain't that good of a
Nightmare
series.
2 sucks.
Nightmare 2 is terrible.
I don't care what anybody says. Nightmare 2 sucks.
I hate to be that guy, but it has tons of gay undertones, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, that's one of the whole
Doesn't he jump on the bed and
they're kissing it. That's fine, but for at the time, it's that's a ballsy move.
Yeah.
To put that out there.
Wasn't it because the director was closeted at the time? Which no issue with that, but I'm just
but it I appreciate the movie for what it did.
Yeah.
For that culture at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, you're right, like, as they went on, like, they got worse and worse, but, like, I think it kind of hyped. 3 and 4 are okay. 4 kind of sucks because they killed off Kincaid and all, like, the characters.
That made me so
You know, you spend 3, like, loving all these characters, and it's like, hell yeah, they survived. And then 4, it's like...
Freddy's dead is terrible.
The remake was a very good return to form.
I agree.
However, it feels like, hot take. The remake was a good return to form.
Oh, I got another one.
However, the only thing that I will complain on the new one, and of course we'll bring this back up in the actual video whenever we do it, is it was too much of a shot for shot for me, and I would have liked to have seen them take more risks. And I think they did that very well whenever they played up more so that Freddy Krueger was a child molester. They didn't really do that in the original.
No. I mean, it was kind of hinted at, but it was more like, hey, Freddy, you're a pervert. You're not fucking our kids.
Yeah, but in the remake, he actually had a, like, rape dungeon.
Yeah, he was like...
I agree with what
come
Kody
down
said.
here.
I agree with what Kody said completely. I absolutely love the remake. I really do. As I said earlier, I do think that Jackie Earle Haley did a phenomenal job as Freddy Krueger. You know, Robert Englund has really, really big boots to fill.
Super nice guy, by the way. Robert Englund, super nice guy.
Okay, a few things. We should have met Jackie Earle Haley that day. Such a mistake. Or at Horror Hound 2019.
Oh, we skipped him?
We didn't have any money left because we had met so many people.
Yeah, and it was really unfortunate. I would have loved to have met him.
Who else has he played?
Jackie Earle Haley?
Rorschach.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's the main thing. But the thing, like, he doesn't really get shit on for his portrayal of Freddy. Everyone, like, pretty much mutually agrees he was good. It's just the plot is kind of weird, and I don't really like that kid from Hunting in Connecticut.
The characters were stale.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan.
The characters were very stale. And that's something that horror movies have a really bad habit of portraying is good character development. But whenever your whole purpose on the screen is to get killed, why put, especially in early movies, why put effort in building a character? Now, more narrative-driven horror, say It, Stephen King's It, especially the remake from 2017?
17 and Chapter 2 was 19.
Yeah. So, whenever it's more narrative like that, your character development for them is so much more interesting, and you care about those characters. If they would have killed Eddie, let's say King killed Eddie as a kid, that would have killed you because he was a very interesting and lovable character, as was all of them. And I was actually really upset seeing Eddie die in the remake as well of Part 2. Yeah,
that was pretty sad.
Another hot take.
We knew it was coming. A hot take. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what Chase is going to say. Part 2 kind of sucks. Chapter 2 isn't as good as Chapter 1. Or wait, no, he doesn't like Chapter 1.
I don't like Chapter 1. That's my hot take. I'm just full of terrible horror movie opinions.
You're a fucking idiot.
I love Part 2. I hated Part 1. Well, okay, I didn't hate Part 1. I do think that both of you give Part 1 too much credit.
No, I'll agree with you there. Part 1, a lot of people, including myself, I will say that there is a lot of hype behind it. But at the same time, give credit where credit is due.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like bringing Pennywise to the screen again and adapting such a large book, as It, because it's like 1,500 pages or something like that. I could be off by a few hundred pages, but adapting a story like It is, for starters, it's difficult. One, because there's a lot of characters in it.
Right.
And the story is heavy. The lore is not necessarily heavy, but it's there. So, adapting it the way that Andy Muschietti, I don't know how to say his name.
You said it right.
Not Eddie.
Andy, sorry.
Andy and
excuse me. Andy Muschietti did, I thought he did a phenomenal job with his adaptation of Part 1. Part 2, reading the book, he did a good job there as well. But Part 2 just wasn't as interesting to me.
I will say this about Part 2. If it wasn't for Bill Hader, I would hate that movie.
Yeah.
Bill Hader's performance as Richie is absolutely amazing.
Okay, a few things. He should have been nominated for an Oscar for that. And if you don't agree, I will fucking fight you.
It's just because it's a horror movie.
Yeah. Horror gets shit on. It's like Jordan Peele should be nominated so many times.
Oh, 100%.
They're just like, nah, it's a horror movie. You're a bitch. Like, your genre doesn't count.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like Us that much. I will give it its credit. It's an absolutely phenomenal movie. I just didn't like it.
It's got a weird vibe. Anyways, what I was going to say about 2017 It is, I think the reason we liked it so much and we hyped it up so much is we went so long without a good horror movie. Like, unless I'm probably like forgetting something that's like really good, and everyone's going to be like, "What the hell? You forgot about this?" But like, the last horror movie I can remember enjoying before It Chapter 2 or It Chapter 1 is like Conjuring 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I can't
really
name a horror movie.
If you really think about it, other than like the Conjuring series, I don't know the last time we genuinely had like a good series of films.
Let me drop this hot take real quick. Originality is something that's really hard to achieve in Hollywood anymore, and it's not just Hollywood. It's like fan films, film festivals, and stuff like that as well. To the point where it gets attention. Because I'm sure there's plenty of fan projects and film festival movies out there that are phenomenal, that never get picked up.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy, like, if you think of how many movies there are in existence.
Yeah.
We have literally, like, all of us combined probably haven't even seen 1% of the movies out there.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's crazy. Stuff that doesn't get acknowledged.
100%.
Like, for example, like, say we wanted to go make a horror movie. Like, and even if it was successful, like, no one would see it.
Yeah, exactly. Because
like it would be such a minor scale thing.
It's easier for Hollywood to put forth money because it's a big risk. If you're putting forward $100 million budget, which to be fair, it probably wouldn't be that high. But
I mean, a lot of stuff flops, and they want to have that fucking guarantee that I'm going to make at least a little bit of my money.
Because
back.
if you lose $75 million, I'd be upset.
Yeah. It's like that sucks because that happened to Dr. Sleep.
It did it to Cats as well. You remember that Cats movie? Like,
yeah.
I know it's not horror,
but like, fuck Cats. But like, Dr. Sleep was a big one because it was like, the way they labeled it, they should have just said it was a sequel to The Shining, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Like, they put in the elements, like they showed like the callbacks and the trailers and stuff, but like, obviously The Shining is a cult classic, but there's a lot of people that haven't seen The Shining.
Oh, yeah.
Like, teens wanting to go see a horror movie, they're like, what the hell is Obi-Wan Kenobi doing with this little kid?
With that being said, what I'm trying to say is it's easier to make something based off a name.
Yes, exactly.
If you make a new Halloween movie, it's obviously probably going to do well at the box office. Maybe not critically.
That's why they called it Halloween. It's the same.
Just look at Halloween 3. Just look at Halloween 3. John Carpenter wanted to have an anthology series. He named it Halloween when Halloween was already associated with Michael Myers. Fans got mad that it wasn't Michael Myers.
But Halloween 3 didn't flop was the thing. It did fine at the box office.
Really?
But here's the thing, like you're saying, if they would have said, I keep coming back to Dr. Sleep, but if they would have called it Dr. Sleep Part 2 of The Shining story, or however,
Shining
marketing.
Part 2, Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, something like that. It would have sold 10 times better, guaranteed.
I think the reason why they did it the way that they did it, which, yes, that would have been better to do it marketing-wise, because association sells, obviously.
Yeah.
Especially if it's associated with the series that's already done well. I think the reason why they did that was because Dr. Sleep, the adaptation of the book, which is what it was, while Dr. Sleep, the book, be a direct sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, the movie, in a sense, was not a sequel to the movie. Does that make sense?
It was, was a sequel to the movie, but it's more like a sequel to the movie and the book at the same time.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at.
It took elements of everything and it adapted it into one, almost like a tribute, to sense.
Because I'm fairly certain they said that they did that to cater towards both sides.
Oh yeah,
the
Mike
book fans
Flanagan
and the
has.
movie fans.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan has come out and said he's such a fan of both. He's like, both of these are amazing pieces of art. Like, whether you don't like Kubrick's work or not, you have to acknowledge how great it was. The effort he put into it, and the same thing with Stephen King in his book. And he really fused those together well, I think, with Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
You have to at least appreciate the movie for Shelley Duvall because she was never the same after that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, poor Shelley.
It's so unfortunate what happened.
I mean, that's just the way Kubrick was, though.
He was a shithead.
I didn't know till the other day that Malcolm McDowell is the dude in The Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
He's so young. I was like...
speaking of Darth Vader, David Prowse is in that.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of great female actors in The Shining now. And Rebecca Ferguson and Dr. Sleep, oh my God, she's so good. I kid you not, after I watched Dr. Sleep, I was so impressed with her as Rose the Hat, I went and watched a bunch of Mission Impossible movies. And I don't even like Tom Cruise, so that shows you. And I enjoyed myself because of her, so.
So, let's shift towards something else now. Like I said earlier, we've talked about what got us into horror. Let's talk about...
We discovered that Halloween Resurrection brought us all together.
It's an amazing movie.
But yes, let's move
Trick or
on.
treat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Busta Rhymes.
Shouldn't use bad words. Trick or treat, Busta Rhymes. There you go.
Let's shift over to you're 19 now. I'm 26. Dakota, how old are you? Like 23 or something?
You son of a bitch, I'm 23.
You're like 35, right?
I'm pretty sure we're all exactly 4 years apart, right?
20 or what?
Yeah.
We're all 4 years apart, right?
Yeah.
You're 27?
I'm about to be, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll just say this is January 2nd, so then we're all 4 years apart.
Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, obviously over time, your tastes change as they do and they mature. You find
sure.
Oh, hell yeah. This past year, my taste has changed, dramatically.
in
As you can tell. And, what I, watch in my free time.
Oh yeah, same with me. There's things that I watched 10 years ago that I'm like, this sucks, and now I watch it now, and it's like,
exactly.
what was I thinking?
It's just
like,
as I was
this is
saying.
actually good.
It's just as I was saying with The Shining. That was a movie that I was introduced to young, and I was like, I hate this movie. Because it was way over my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Well, at the time,
back then, what mattered to me was okay,
death, slashing,
Chucky
blood.
kills this dude.
Yeah.
Freddy kills this dude. Jason kills this dude. But as I've grown up, I've really just looked back at as I said earlier, the Nightmare series. I'm like, okay, those movies weren't that good. I look at the Friday series. I'm like, okay, Friday's kind of my guilty pleasure. And then I look at Chucky and I'm like, wow, those are terrible.
Ass.
Well,
And I look at, and then I go and I look at movies such as The Thing. What else? You look at any ghost movie. Really, I love ghost movie. Anything paranormal.
Ghost Ship.
Ghost Ship. 13 Ghosts. Amazing.
13 Ghosts is amazing.
Isn't
Ghost
that-
Ship's not the opening scene in Ghost Ship, and I feel like I want to do an episode on Ghost Ship, so we'll wait for me to get into immaculate detail. But I genuinely think Ghost Ship has one of the best openings in horror movie
100%
history.
does.
Where they split. Oh my god, that's good. Just thinking
I never
about it.
understood that.
The movie itself sucks.
Yeah, it's not a good movie, but when
that
they split all
opening-
those people in half, it's like
That opening, you're
I just want to scream watching it.
I tell
It's
you
like
what.
I remember seeing that in theaters.
A
Ew.
really good opening to a movie that I saw the other day. Well, I didn't see it, but I watched a breakdown of it. It was 45 minutes long.
So pretty much the whole movie.
Yeah, basically. The movie The Cube. Have you ever seen that or
Yeah.
heard of that?
No, but Logan told me about that. Yeah.
All right, so basically, just to throw this out there for everyone listening, if you haven't seen The Cube, basically these people wake up in a cube that moves and revolves, and the doors and rooms are trapped with traps that will kill people. And
Like an escape room?
yeah, kind of. And they got to find out how to get out of this thing and tell what is a trap and what's not. Well, the movie opens with this. The movie opens with this dude who just wakes up and he looks around the cube and he opens one of the doors and jumps in and you're like, oh, okay, well this is gonna be our main character. We're only gonna have one character for this movie.
Fucking
And
And
then,
then
yeah.
a minute later he's dead.
Yeah. I like movies like that. They and obviously you can kind of see it coming now when you're used to it. But when you were younger and you're watching, and I can't think of an example right now, but I guess Nightmare on Elm Street's a good one.
What?
You start out Nancy's not at the beginning.
Yeah, Tina,
Scream.
Is that right?
Yes. Oh my God, Scream.
Why
the
were you
biggest
not thinking
example
about
of all
that?
time.
Yeah,
I
true.
love Scream. Fucking Drew
In the
Barrymore.
marketing for the first one.
Yeah, Casey Becker. So, I wasn't alive when Scream was being marketing, but you can go back and it's starring America's sweetheart, Drew Barrymore. Watch her. And it shows all these clips of her, and that's all within the first 10 minutes of the movie, and she just gets disemboweled in front of you, and it's
I love me-
my God.
I love me some Drew Barrymore.
Well,
Santa
I feel like
Clarita
they did that.
Hell yeah.
And what they did with that is, I think what they wanted to do was show that all bets were off. All bets were off. But anyway, back to the main point I was trying to get at. So
Yeah, we completely got off topic again.
yeah, but that's fine.
That's a podcast.
This is
Yeah.
it's a podcast, and this is the pilot episode, so
Hell
it's
yeah.
not that big of a deal.
It's not formulaic at all.
So-
Screw that.
Yeah. So the mindset of your tastes in all media, not just horror movies, but all media in general.
Matured.
So yeah. So currently, Chase, and then Dakota, and then I'll follow up with last. What's your current taste in horror movies? Like, to you,
Like
what makes a good horror movie?
Your go-to, like if you had to be like, hey, I'm gonna sit for 24 hours and watch a specific subgenre, like what would you go after?
Yeah, what could you sit and watch probably nonstop? Not movie-wise. You can list movies, but
What's your
like
quarantine pick?
I'd love to have just genuinely, and I like when we do another episode, hint hint, where we talk about our favorite movies. We've already discussed this. I won't be bringing this movie up as my favorite movie, even though it is, because this is also Cody's favorite movie. I'd love to see another movie with the same kind of like psychedelic torture that The Thing has. You don't know, like there's no dramatic irony in it. You don't know who is a thing just as much as the cast doesn't know who is a thing, and I think that's the best part about it.
So hot take, is Child's a thing at the end?
No.
so.
You don't think he is? I think
Well,
he give him
hold on.
a bottle of gasoline.
Hold on.
I believe that theory.
There's a huge thing where it's not.
Hold on. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is a comic that is technically canon that picks up right after the movie. And so they get picked up, and it's been a while since I've read it, but they get on a submarine, and somehow or another, the Thing gets onto the submarine with them, and then they get onto an island. And so, long story short, Childs was the Thing the whole time.
Oh, I thought he freezes to death in the comic.
Called it, knew it.
Like,
Didn't know about that, but I've always just believed that.
Like, I'm not going to say, like, everything that leads up to it, because I haven't read it in a long time. But
I mean,
anyway,
it makes sense.
I think it said explicitly in the comic, because I've looked for those comics all the time. Every time we go to a convention, I look for those comics. No one ever has.
I just want to bring up something about that movie real quick. Okay, 2 questions. Okay, we've already destroyed one of the 3 main questions about this movie. You know, is Child a thing? Okay. What happened to Fuchs, the dude with the glasses who just eviscerated in the snow? And then the chef, I can never remember his name. Like Foles was his name or something like that?
Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember his name. Maybe Holes. I cannot remember. But what happened to
Are
him?
you talking about the black dude?
Yeah, the black chef dude on the skates. He just walks away and he doesn't.
Oh, it's just an off-screen kill.
But like
because he hears something, so it's like utter silence. It's like super silent. Him and Mac are down like on the lower level or
and
whatever.
he just walks away.
And he acts like he hears something, but it's silent. And then he leaves, and then he just dies. It was off screen.
What happens to Fuchs though? Like that's the biggest question. Do you think what's his name? The dude who did the diabetes commercial.
Oh, Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley. Do you think he got out and killed him?
R.I.P. Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, I don't know, because a lot of people think he was a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was.
Yeah, he was, but like, yeah.
Prior
I don't know.
to is what you're saying.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing about that movie.
It's amazing.
It's
You
amazing.
can watch it 80 times and still have 40 questions.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's left ambiguous about that movie, and they did that purposely.
That's the point, so you think about it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you all know this, but The Thing is actually a remake. The original Thing.
The Thing from Outer Space or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Never seen that, but I know what you're talking
I haven't
about.
seen it either. And then you got the 2011 Thing.
Actually, fun fact about the Thing from Outer Space or whatever the movie was called. That was the first movie to ever actually have a fire stunt, like a successful fire stunt where the stuntman is lit on fire. Yep. I can't remember where I found that out at.
Could
I was
you
watching
imagine
some video on the movie.
Could you imagine sitting at the writer's table and be like, "Can we light this guy on fire?"
Like this sumbitch on
What
fire.
are you talking about? We need to light him on fire.
Yeah, we're gonna blaze this boy up.
Yeah.
Not to get off topic, but I was over here on IMDb.
We've said that
looking
5 times. It's okay.
looking at character names, and did you know the guy that plays Childs is Dr. Facilier in Princess and the Frog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
didn't
not
know
know
that?
that was Keith David.
Yeah.
No.
Keith David also
Keith
plays
David plays something else.
Goliath in Gargoyles. He's in
He's in
Tales
everything,
from the
apparently.
Oh,
Hood.
fun fact about this movie as well. There's a scene. I think it's when Wilford Brimley is like taking out he's got that. He
He's
he
punching every
yeah,
day.
he punches windows in the face and all that. Yeah. There's a scene where Mac is like crouched down in the hallway and Childs runs up behind him, and you like see Keith David, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Hide his arm behind Mac, and if you actually pay close enough attention, you can actually see that they have a prosthetic over a cast because Keith David had gotten into a car accident and broke his arm.
Really?
Another fun
Really?
fact.
I didn't know that.
Another fun fact about this movie. You know the scene when they're all walking around in the hallway kind of like panicking?
Yeah.
And they're all like getting together? I can't remember what's the dude's name that Norris. Norris has the heart attack, right?
Yeah.
The one that splits open?
Yeah, if you pay attention to that scene as well, where they're all just kind of like messing around the hallway, if you look at the very end of the hallway at Norris, Norris's whole dick is just out.
What?
Yeah. You won't ever see that scene again. Like, the same again. I swear.
I got the VHS over there. We need to watch it
His
tonight.
penis is really just out?
His penis is just out. He has no pants on.
Like, he hanging low or hanging high?
I don't know. I found that out the other day watching a YouTube video. So I went online, looked at it, and sure enough.
I'm genuinely speechless.
I've seen the thing on cable before and didn't know that. So, like, is that just on TBS or?
I mean, it's like
Dick's
something
out on ABC.
I mean,
Yeah.
You know, I accidentally smacked my mic. I apologize. You know how many like times, like I'm sure Cody's watched the thing countless. I've watched it countless. I don't know how many times you've watched it.
Not as many as you.
There's-
but a few
You won't
times.
notice that. So I'm.
Yeah. There's stuff that you don't notice even if you watch a movie 150 times.
Anybody that listens to this, they're gonna. Oh God, I moved the whole rug. They're gonna be like, "Hey, y'all, listen." They're gonna be talking to all their friends. Like, I heard there's a big cock in the thing. You all need to look for it.
These idiots on this new podcast, KillerCast, told me.
Yeah, they told me about thing penises. It's assimilating itself.
Yeah. But, so Chase, you say that right now your tastes
I just like psychological
sit within
horror.
psychological, and that makes a lot of sense because a lot of those movies make you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily hate movies that are just like slash and kill, because those are fun.
They're great for entertainment.
They're great for entertainment, but a movie that sticks with you, that makes you think, God, I can't talk. The Thing come out forever ago. It come out,
1982.
it's been almost 40
You can
years.
still talk about it.
It's been almost 40 years, and the question still remains, was Childs The Thing
Yeah, after all this time.
after all this time? And a movie that can persist over, 3, 4, 5 decades with questions still, it says a lot about the movie itself. And that movie had a lot of effort put into it to make it what it is. And I can greatly respect any movie that has ever done that. But,
I agree.
Dakota, what are you into right now?
Well, I mean, you guys know, like, I am really, like, heavily into, like, 80s, 90s slashers right now. Like, low-key obsessed. Like, I've probably watched My Bloody Valentine, like, 6 times this year.
That's sad.
And,
okay.
like, I know that...
Wait,
Which one,
wait,
remake or OG?
OG.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, like, Harry Warden style. Like,
I mean, it's still not, like, the best movie, but it's still an interesting...
that's
it's still
not
an
even,
interesting movie.
No. That's not my main example here. Like, anything like Sleepaway Camp or The Mangler or Prowler or, like, any of those old, like, campy, like, shitty, like...
Basically,
that had
just
good
copies
kills,
of Halloween.
But I wouldn't even say copies of Halloween because they're all like, they're so like, they don't take themselves seriously.
That's what I'm
You know what I
saying.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I'm just addicted to watching. It just
It's
draws me in.
entertaining.
No, I get it.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun. I don't have to take it seriously.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, Movies that you can sit down and have fun with, turn off the world, that's a great thing.
Yeah,
Distracts you
it's
from
like-
all the bullshit going on, especially right now with COVID.
Earlier when you were talking about like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, those fit into that perfectly, I think, because like you can just sit back and enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street. It's one of those movies
Yeah,
you can just
well, it's just like
you
I
can
said.
chill out for 84 minutes and just relax and enjoy yourself watching Johnny Depp get meat tornadoed.
It's
Yeah,
just like I
like-
said with Friday the 13th.
Meat tornado.
It's just like I said with Friday the 13th. Like, that's probably my, like, guilty pleasure movies. You know what I mean? Like, I just really, really like Friday the 13th Part 3.
You did not expect that meat tornado comment, did
And
you?
it took me a good 5 seconds to realize what you said.
Friday the 13th Part 3 is not good, really. It's like a
No,
copy.
part 3 sucks.
It's a copy of 1 and 2, but I love that movie because it's entertaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, here's the exact same movie as part 2, but here's a new mask and a new setting, and like, who doesn't love all the all the different camps? Like, that's why I love Friday the 13th, the game, so much. Like, we all know that it sucks, but they did so much work to recreate those camps and give it that feeling. It's so amazing to like explore yourself.
Well,
I just love the setting.
Here's what I personally think about the slasher subgenre. It's very broad. You could be as, cut and dry as Scream, a mass killer. You could be as over the top as
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I wouldn't call that a slasher, but
Maybe not a main, like I wouldn't call that like the main genre of Killer Clowns,
But a
but
subgenre
there's
of
some
slasher.
Yeah, it's got some slasher elements to it. I mean, they punch
Okay.
that fucker's head off.
well, that's true. I was gonna say more so like something more known like Nightmare or Friday, obviously. I know we keep going back to that a lot, but I'm talking about over the top.
But I mean, those are such prime examples. It's hard to not talk about them.
Exactly.
Bring up slashers. Like, it seems cliche to talk about Michael and Freddy.
That's
and
what I was going to
Leatherface.
say. If you're talking about slashers, you have to talk about Michael, Freddy, and Jason.
Yeah, I mean, those are
They're the top dogs.
trifecta of horror right there, of any subgenre. Like, if you say, hey...
It's literally the Michael Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron.
Yeah, literally, like, if we were playing Family Feud, and Steve Harvey's like, all right, we surveyed 100 people. Top 5 horror names are on the board, horror icons. It's going to be Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, and Chucky.
What do you think would be at the top?
Freddy.
Probably Freddy.
Yeah.
I'd say...
I don't know, because Michael has a lot more of a cultural impact than you think. Because there's a lot of... I don't want to, like, call anybody out, but Michael Myers and Halloween is almost like a white trash horror movie.
No,
in the aspect of, like, if you were, like... And I don't want to, like, subject it to any, like, certain type of lifestyle, but, like... It's so, like, familiarized with culture, like, anyone knows what it is.
No, you're right.
Like, my church-going grandma knows what Michael Myers is.
You're right. You're very much so right.
And Freddy and Jason are the same to a sense, but not as much, because Michael has been shown so much. Like, you see freaking Michael Myers everywhere.
Not only that, but Michael arguably brought the slasher subgenre into...
mainstream.
Into mainstream.
Which sucks, because, like, I want to say that's Leatherface, but, I mean, it totally is Michael.
It's totally Michael, because I feel like it was more broader, because we had this conversation earlier. The reason why Halloween worked so well was because it took a suburban middle-class setting, and it took something very real.
I was going to say, that's what's so terrifying about the OG Halloween, is it could genuinely happen besides the fact that Michael takes like 6 shots.
And not saying that fucking Leatherface out in Texas chopping people up and eating them, it's not possible.
Easily happen, but the thing about Michael Myers is, like, especially back in, like, the late 70s and 80s, serial killers were such, like, a prominent thing coming off, like, the late 60s, early 70s. Like, Gacy and John... What the hell is his name?
John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer.
Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, that was all such a, like, prevalent thing, and they were, like, the Zodiac Killer, even.
Yeah.
And it was like, this could happen to me. I could be babysitting these kids, and this guy come in and butcher me.
You look all the way back when Ed Gein, I mean, that's literally what Texas Chainsaw is based after.
Exactly.
Yeah. And not only that, but Michael Myers, the Halloween franchise, very dominates the mindset of suspense builds fear. You know, Michael is a stalker. You know, there's plenty of shots in his movies where you can see him in the distance.
Yeah, I think that's terrifying.
It's centered on him. You know, like, you're aware that he's there, but the characters are not.
Yeah,
and there's that level of suspense that is built. And I think that's why Michael works so well, was because it's like, it could happen to anybody.
Well, that's what I think Halloween 2018 does beautifully. Like, I love this. This is probably my favorite part of the movie, is when they have that, like...
One take,
like, track shot of him going through the houses, and she's closing the blind, he sticks it to the throat, and then he kills it, and he walks up, and he's like, holy shit, is Michael going to kill this baby?
I know.
And then he keeps going, and then he gets into Julian's house, and then that's my favorite part of the movie, is the babysitter house with Vicky and all them. Yeah. But, just the presence of Michael Myers is something else. And I think they ruined that in, 5, 6, and so on.
Right. They did ruin it later in the franchise.
4 was so good. They set it up to be another great trilogy with 4.
Yeah, 4.
And 5 is the worst of any movie.
I don't know. 6, they killed Jamie for no reason. That sucks.
Why in part 5 is there just this, like, dude in gangster garb with...
the mystery guy. Yeah. I forgot about him.
What's the point of that?
And they never resolved it.
They put him in the movie to like fix plot holes. That's why.
Yeah. He's walking around and he's like, oh, plot hole, bang, bang.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with a lot of movies from the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, is a lot of them set up at the end for a sequel. They always did.
Yeah, they want that potential to bring in more money.
Yeah, and sometimes, even though they set up for it, it didn't fucking matter. It didn't matter. They set up for it, and they went a completely different route. And it's just because it's like the studios who own the rights to these were just like handing it out to different people, and it's like, here it is. And
write me a script.
Yeah,
Here's $10,000.
And it was always a bastardized version over time, over the years, sequel after sequel, it seemed like Michael Myers lost
his appeal.
More and more of himself, for lack of, not to blame it on one specific person,
Here,
obviously.
Just put it this way. He went from being Michael Myers, the deranged serial killer, to The Shape. You get what I'm saying in that aspect?
Yeah.
Like he's just a killer.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't
and
have
that's
that.
very true. That's very true.
Like feel.
But, I have to agree with Chase in the terms of psychological horror movies, and I also got to say the same thing about slashers. Really, I'll sit down and I'll watch anything. That's how I've always been. That's how I'll probably always be.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
Yeah. I can't sit here and say that I specifically watch one subgenre.
I agree.
But what I will say, what I like is, like I said, I like movies that make me think. I like movies that has little Easter eggs throughout it. I like movies like, let's say, You're Next.
Rewatchability, baby.
Where you know what happened. If you watch it like a second, third, fourth, fifth time, you see little like key details
To who is behind it.
Yeah, and stuff
Cell
like
phone jammer, baby.
Yeah.
Same with like It. You see like little Easter eggs, especially if you read the books. You can be like, oh. Like whenever you have a director and writers and actors that care about the source material or just care about the movie in general, that really changes how a movie turns out at the end of the day. And you can obviously tell whenever people do care. There's a lot of work and a lot of effort put into these movies. And it's not just a project of one person. It's a project of a whole team. And
it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, by everybody.
Sure, yeah.
Actors, directors, writers, producers, editors.
Yeah, if everyone's not in on it, like you're gonna have a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So now that we're on this topic of like production and all that, there's a lot of problems with postmodern horror, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I would say, there's problems with all horror from the dawn of time, but like specifically like 2012 to 2020, like we've had some shit movies. Like there's been some stuff that just like, why did I waste $750 to come see this?
Name one, for example. I just like clowning on like terrible horror movies from the modern era.
Bye, man.
You want me to name one? The Grudge 2020 is the worst movie I've ever seen.
I mean,
that upsets me because we went and seen that on my birthday. That was my birthday.
I've seen The Dead Don't Die, and I will say that The Grudge 2020 was worse.
It's just so sad that like we're in this time of modern technology, modern innovation, everything.
Yeah, the
and
things
we still can't make a movie better than John Carpenter's OG Halloween. Like.
Yeah, like we really can't move past 1978, guys. Come on.
Well, I feel like in Hollywood right now, I don't think it's necessarily the directors and the writers that don't want to.
It's the studios.
Yeah, it's very much so the studios because, like I said earlier, do you want to gamble $100 million on this project? No, you're gonna want to play it safe.
It's easy to call something Halloween and make $100 million off of it instead of calling it.
Spooky Man in the Forest.
Jimbo Jack kills a whole town of people.
Oh my God, it's Jimbo Jack!
You know what I mean? Like,
and you can originality is something that's very hard to come by anymore. You see remakes all the time, and not only that, but you see tropes pulled from other movies. You see sometimes kills used the same way. And
exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Like what?
And it's kind of gross to see it because it's like, to some extent...
Examples upon examples. I mean, most of them, there's not like any like...
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I wouldn't say like there's like unique kills, like something like crazy that someone just directly copies, but there's so many like...
Doesn't someone copy...
Fuck off with your off-camera kills. Like, I get why you do it to save money, but at the same time, it's okay if you have an off-camera kill and then it pays off later. So, like,
you get to see
I'm going to be honest with you. One of the best horror movies I've seen in the past 5 or 6 years was Freaky. I loved that so much.
Yeah.
It was such a good movie. And there was a lot of good on-screen kills, but there was an off-screen kill with a chainsaw. And you think, like, she's going to fucking mangle this guy with a chainsaw, and then it's off screen, and you're like, well, this sucks. But then it comes back later, and she shows, like, the pile of, like, body parts in their heads and, like, nuts sawed in half. And it's like, okay, that was good for an off-screen kill.
Yeah.
But then you have something like The Thing, where he just walks off, and that's supposed to be the end of it. It's like, aww.
And, sometimes if it's
Or
shot
Knowles.
cinematically.
Knowles, that was the dude's name. Knowles.
And sometimes if it's shot very cinematically, it works. You know, if you see someone, the killer stabbing or beating the person with a blunt weapon from a distance, you know, you see them at the center shot and you hear it and you see it. But
So,
you
for
don't
example, when Michael Myers kills that black lady in the hospital in...
Octavia Spencer.
Yeah. Amazing actor.
Yeah.
And
he's running.
Yeah,
He's running.
and you hear her like...
Yeah.
Over and over again.
And I'll give Rob Zombie props whenever it comes to his gore and to his kills.
His violence is insane.
It almost makes you want to think that he's probably killed about 15 people in his life.
Yeah, Rob Zombie's movies are almost like psychedelic, like torture porn.
Yeah.
They seem so real if you actually like could imagine like hillbillies.
Yeah, it's like there's just this big fucker that I went to high school with that went crazy, and now he's killing me in my day job.
Yeah,
like I agree.
But going back to what we were saying, there's very little originality anymore because obviously you don't want to take chances because unfortunately in the early days, 70s and 80s horror, there was a lot of crazy shit that come out that just didn't work. You look at The Mangler.
Yeah.
You look at, I think The Mutilator is another one.
I like The Mutilator.
It's campy, it's funny. And you look at Chopping Mall.
Is that the one on the beach, The Mutilator, where the dad comes back?
Yeah.
Spring Break or whatever.
Yeah.
Fall Break? Yeah, Fall Break.
Fall Break!
Fall Break.
And, Chopping Mall is one that jumps off, the page to me right now that has a pretty good...
Listen here. If I ever find the punks who did this, you dead meat. Shout out, I love you, James A. Janice.
Yeah, James A. Janice shouted me out on Twitter.
Too good.
And Chelsea. We love you all. Anyways, moving on.
But, Chopping Mall, while it now has... It's more well-known, and it's funny because it's campy. It's like back then it just didn't do well. So I feel like that's one of the things that has just evolved over time that it makes studios not want to take as big of a chance with movies anymore, and they want to do the same thing over and over, but sometimes whenever you do take a chance, it works really well.
It's true.
A few examples that come off, that jump off the top of my head. Get Out.
Don't Breathe.
Ready
that was
or
an
Not.
indie horror
Ready
film.
or Not.
Great one.
Hush.
Hush is beautiful.
I don't think Hush got a cinematic, or a theatrical release. But the fact of the matter stays the same.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, like, I'm not saying that, like, these are good movies, but the OG Paranormal Activity was definitely a gamble. It took no money to film.
Here's the deal with Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity did well because of, one, how it was marketed.
How it blew up, yeah.
And two, it was a genre-defining movie.
Oh.
Arguably genre-defining. Because what it did was it brought back the found footage, quote-unquote found footage, style of movie that was popularized by Blair Witch. It was marketed almost, I don't want to say exactly like Blair Witch, but very similarly, because Blair Witch was marketed as...
Blair Witch was special in the fact that the internet wasn't prevalent at the time.
There was a found footage movie before the Blair Witch. What was it? Do you know? I can't remember.
I don't even know. The thing about Blair Witch,
Blair Witch is the only one I know.
There was something.
I went to a panel with Heather Donahue once at Days of the Dead, and she talked about how, like, the producers and directors, they were like, listen, like, you guys are pretty unknown, so until this movie comes out, we need you to stay this way.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to go out. If you go out in public, like, don't make yourself known.
We want people to think you're dead.
Yeah, we want them to think you're deader than a doorknob. Don't tell your families, don't tell your friends, like, you're dead.
I remember it now, what movie it was. It was Cannibal Holocaust, which, same exact way. I finally watched that movie for the first time.
That's a video nasty.
I finally watched that movie for the first time the other day, and it genuinely made me disgrace to be a human.
They got in a lot of trouble for that movie because they
thought that
killed a
people
lot of
were
animals, and they thought people actually died. They had to prove to foreign courts that
they didn't murder people.
That movie is so gratuitous, dude. It's
if you want to watch not necessarily one that's a lot like Cannibal Holocaust, but one that's very similar, watch Green Inferno.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That movie, whenever they're chopping that guy up on that fucking stump, and they're chopping his arms and legs off and gouging out his eyes, nothing makes me cringe in horror because I'm desensitized. I've seen enough nasty shit in my life that nothing bothers me anymore.
Yeah.
That movie made me cringe.
It's a pretty gross movie. The Green Inferno, I thought, like, when I was first watching it, from the get go, and that dude gets bit on the wee wee by a spider.
Ouchie.
I thought it was basically.
That is?
Yeah.
I thought it was just supposed to basically be a parody of Cannibal Holocaust, but then as soon as they started chopping that dude up, I'm like,
This is real.
yeah, they aren't playing
They're
around.
going for
like
this.
the whole. I couldn't take that movie serious because then it like a little
We
bit
didn't
later in
even
the
talk
movie.
about practical effects. That's something
that dude's
that's
just sitting
big.
there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just going at it.
That's something that's big in horror that I don't know why we haven't touched on.
I mean, we've talked about The Thing for like the whole episode, and we didn't bring
yeah,
up
we didn't
practical
even
effects.
touch practical effects, and I don't know why. That's something that is underused so much that can make or break a movie. The reason why I think that The Thing did really well, not just because of the psychological aspect of it, but the practical aspect of it as well. And you can see that in Green Inferno as well. As far as I know, there was barely any CGI in that movie.
Fun fact: people hated The Thing when it first came out. John Carpenter said that if he didn't like make Halloween before it, and Halloween didn't blow up, like
People would shit on the thing.
John Carpenter would have made no money
Yeah.
because he lost all that money.
Well,
Like The Thing was not commercially.
nobody...
It's because E.T. had just came out a week before, and everyone was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, aliens are nice." And then John Carpenter releases this movie where aliens are eating people.
Nobody liked The Shining either. Everybody fucking hated The Shining.
Even Stephen King.
Yeah, like that. I think that it was panned beyond belief whenever The Shining dropped.
I mean, it's just like Psycho. Like Psycho come out at that like, they say Psycho is like the godfather of slashers, but like it's so old and like it's good, but it's like I don't know. I respect it for what it is, but at the time people were like, oh, "What is this like devil like evil shit in my theater? Like I
What
should be
is
here
this?
watching Wizard of Oz, not this Alfred Hitchcock bullshit."
Alfred Hitchcock is very interesting because it's like he cranked out a movie every year for like 40 years.
Yeah, that fucker was not playing around.
No, he was not. And a lot of his stuff was very, how it was shot and how it was edited was very revolutionary for the time. If you look at The Birds, or I think that's the title of it.
Birds or The Birds.
How they shot that movie and how they edited it before CGI was a thing. Where they
that's
superimposed
impressive.
stuff over each other.
Way
It is
ahead of its
amazing
time.
the way that they did that movie.
Yeah.
But in terms of like what we don't like in horror, originality is a big one. The over-reliance of CGI.
I don't want to get super heated in the first episode, but like everyone knows what I don't like in horror.
What?
And his name is fucking Ari Aster. Or however you pronounce his
Ari
name.
Aster?
I forgot. He
Who is that? I always forget.
He
Who is
cannot stand Hereditary, and he cannot stand Midsommar.
I'm not even going to call it Midsommar.
I
Midsummer
call it
is
Midsommar.
the worst horror movie I have ever seen. And fuck Hereditary too. The only good thing about
Hereditary's so
Hereditary
depressing.
is it brings back the Naked Brother bands to the silver screen. Like, that's the only thing that I...
Well, see-
I'm going to punch this
Going
mic
back
just
to what I
thinking
said
about
earlier
this.
about things that I like in horror, in regards to little Easter eggs and little things here and there. Ari Aster does a really good job with that specifically.
See, when I'm talking
I'm
about
not-
psychological horror,
we
I
could
think Midsummer and Hereditary, if you watch it by yourself at night and it's cold, you'll be the most depressed person on the planet. It is so
I'm not
depressing of a movie.
saying he's a bad filmmaker. I think he does a good job for what he's going for.
They're just not
And
the types of
they're just
movies
not
that
your
you
type of movie.
like.
Yeah, they're beautifully shot. Midsummer looks amazing.
His
What's the
cinematography
woman's
is
name?
great.
What's the woman's name in Hereditary? The one who plays the mom. She is
Toni
fantastic.
Collette. Toni Collette's amazing.
She's
I
an
love
amazing
her in
actor,
Knives Out.
but she's probably the best ever in that movie.
She should have won
Oh,
an
that's-
award.
Was she nominated?
I don't think so.
No.
once again,
That's
horror.
another
Pull
thing.
them off.
Like, it gets shit on Toni Collette. Like,
I could be
sorry.
completely wrong in that. She could have won something, but I highly doubt that she did.
I'm pretty sure.
Mainly because it was horror. And I don't want to get like super crazy about this, but I think that Get Out was good, but I don't think it's as good as people say. And
I
the
can agree with
performances in that movie were good, but I have not seen in a quote-unquote horror movie a performance as good as hers in Hereditary.
I can agree.
Well,
with
let me hop back before
And the
people
only
shit on me.
The only reason why let me preface that with this. The only reason why I say Get Out is because it is held at such a high regard, And
as the greatest horror movie of all time.
yes,
As I roll my eyes.
yeah,
I
which is
disagree
good.
with it being the greatest horror movie of all time, but it does have a really good social commentary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a fight for another day. What I was gonna say is, I'm not saying, you know what, they're not bad movies, and they have amazing performances. The actors are great, the directing is great, but they are so fucking dreadful that watching Midsummer, that's the first movie I think I've ever.
hold on.
Midsummer was such a weird movie.
Are you saying dreadful in terms of depressing?
Yeah, like I literally wanted to kill myself by the time I got to the end of Midsummer.
Why? Because it's
Like, oh my god, it's so dreadful. Like, that scene where they're, and like, I can handle
They're all
anything.
naked?
But no, when they start dropping off that cliff and smacking
Oh,
into
yeah.
those rocks, I literally turned it off. Me and my mom were watching, and I was like, yep, fuck this movie.
I remember.
And I watched it the next day, and I remember I messaged Cody. I was like, this is the biggest, like, I hate this so much.
You
and
did.
The beginning of Midsummer really gets to me, too, where she's like, who goes through that much effort to kill themselves and their family? Like, you hook up big tubes to your garage and run your cars and put on a face mask?
I don't know.
Just shoot yourself.
Ask the dude from your next. Ask the dude from your next.
So,
Yeah, but he was killing his family, not himself.
Oh,
Like, he had plans to live and take the inheritance.
So,
I just can't. I'm sorry.
what was I going to
If we do a full episode of this, of any of Hereditary or your
we will. Don't worry.
Midsummer, it's just going to be you all praising it and me absolutely talking shit about the
Well,
time.
I'm not going to sit here. My mindset, me being 26 and doing what I've done in life, I'm a very cynical person.
Fair enough.
And, you know, I can sit here all day and talk shit about something that could be the greatest thing of all time and still talk shit about it. That's just my mindset towards all things. There's stuff I like, sure, but I can at least point out the flaws in it. And I can understand why some people don't like Midsommar, and I can understand why some people don't like Hereditary. But for me, the reason why I like them is more of like the story and the small thing, like the small little details. And those movies, I think, you say they're dreadful.
Which is the point.
Yeah, that's the point. Because
Yeah.
what they're trying to do...
I just don't like that.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make you connect with the character on an emotional level. Because not to get like psychological or anything, but humans as a whole are very, for the most part, sympathetic. And if you see a character who you could potentially relate to, everybody can relate to losing a family member. Everybody can.
I feel
That's
bad
just
for
the
the
long
dad.
short of it. And whenever you see somebody
The
struggling
dad
with
that gets
that,
burned alive.
Yeah,
I mean, that sucks.
He's just
Like,
chilling and like trying to hold the
just
family
chilling,
together.
yeah.
yeah, and he's just like, oh, what the fuck? And he dies.
Yeah.
And then Nick loses it.
Is that his name? I just call him Nat Wolf, or is that Alex Wolf?
I think it's Nick.
I tell you what, there are some very good
No, it's
Easter
not
eggs throughout
Nick
that
Wolf.
movie.
I'm talking about their real life names.
If you study,
Oh, I was talking about the character.
if you study like pagan gods and stuff like that, the god who like, or the demon who like absorbs his body and takes his body.
Yeah.
Actually, you know how like the girl, I can't remember her name, is always like, Grandma wanted me to be a boy. It's because that pagan demon can only actually have a host be a man.
And you know, here's something. I like horror movies that don't just, Satan and all this other shit.
They use like different like
yeah, they'll
entities
use
and
different
gods,
things.
yeah.
Like
Ooga,
that
I'm
movie,
Satan.
Yeah, that
I'm the devil.
that movie I was telling you about the other day that's got Jeffrey Dean Morgan in it, The Possession, that come out I think in 2012, 2013. It uses a Jewish. I think it's
2012.
2012. I was right. I think it's a demon. I want to say it's a demon. I can't remember the name, what the actual demon's quote-unquote name is. But, you know, I thought that was very interesting that they used something like that.
Remember that movie?
A Dybbuk.
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 I thought that was very interesting that they used something like that. And, you know, in Hereditary, I thought it was very interesting that they used a pagan, an unknown, I don't want to say unknown, but lesser known pagan deity of some sort.
You remember that movie Devil?
Yes.
Like where they're in the elevator and
M. Night Shyamalan.
Never seen that.
terrible.
It's a terrible movie.
Don't ever
The
watch
premise
it.
of it is
Yourself in.
interesting.
What's wrong with M. Night Shyamalan?
A lot.
Fucker can't make a movie to save
The
his
Last
life.
Airbender.
Well, you know, he made Signs. He made Signs.
I like Signs.
And everybody loves Signs. And I think that got his head really big, and he's like, I'm going to do all this crazy shit. And everyone's like, the fuck are you doing?
Did he make The Sixth Sense as well?
No, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. That and Signs are good.
That's a great
Well,
one.
I hate The Village.
Don't get me wrong. Twists are great in movies. Twists are great in stories.
But it's so expected when all he does is twist.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. But it's interesting. You have to make them interesting. You have to make the build-up worth it. You have to make the twist somewhat believable whenever you go back and you review the information that you've been given throughout. Not just... And this is not just exclusive to movies. This is to all storytelling in general. Looking back on the information you've been given and piecing it together. Like, yeah, I could see how Bruce Willis would actually be a ghost in this situation. Yeah, I could see how the old lady was the one who was possessed as by the devil in this elevator. You know, you have to... It has to be believable. And there's some situations where M. Night Shyamalan just falls flat with that shit.
Very true.
Yeah.
Fucker. Can't keep his head on straight.
Yeah.
Last Airbender, baby.
I was gonna say we're gonna end off the podcast with just
Shit talking
dogging
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan, if you're listening to this podcast, never make another movie again.
Listen here, buddy. Like, mad respect to you for doing what you've done.
The Sixth Sense, amazing.
In life, you know, making some of these, you know, memorable movies to some extent. But I don't think anybody who's under the age of 30 will forgive you for what you did to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
You know what? I'm just gonna say it right now. If we ever get to the point where we're dropping merch like crazy, like we're going crazy like Mr. Beast or Logan Paul, just dropping shirts every day,
That'll never happen.
I will make sure with every being in my body that we have a fuck M. Night Shyamalan
Every
shirt
being?
available.
Every bean.
Every meme in my body that we will have a fuck M. Night Shyamalan shirt
All right.
on shopkillercast.com.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's gonna cap off the KillerCast podcast.
Or the pilot episode.
The pilot episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm Chase.
I'm Dakota.
And I'm Kody.
And we will see you guys later.
Be sure to be kind and rewind.